Hey, what's up guys? I'm Nitij and in this video I will show you how you can get yourself started with using CSS Flexbox for your web pages. If you don't already know about the CSS Flexbox, then you are missing so much in terms of creating a fluid layout for your web pages. The CSS Flexbox provides a layout to add items in a container whose size is not fixed and is flexible. This is where the word flex came from, to add items to a flexible container. The basic idea behind using the CSS Flexbox is to utilize the space in a container in the best possible way to fill in items. The Flexbox layout is directional and hence cannot be used to create the layouts for the entire page in a grid-like structure. CSS grids are more suitable for such a requirement. Also, when you are using CSS grids combined with CSS Flexbox, then what you get is a very stable and flexible layout which will work seamlessly for a number of different screen sizes. Almost all of the latest major browsers support the CSS Flexbox, so I think you can use them without any worries. Let's get started with some of the code examples and hopefully you will be able to get yourself up to speed in using CSS Flexbox like a professional designer. The first thing that we need to do is to add a div which will act as a container for the flex items. So let's just do that. The class of this div is content and we need to set the display property of this div in this class as the value flex. This is the content class with the display property set as flex. When we will set the display property as flex, then we are telling the browser that this container div will need to act like a flexbox. So the browser will automatically arrange the items which are contained inside this div as flex items which belong to a flexible container. When we will provide a bunch of Flexbox properties, then the browser will arrange the flex container items depending on the values of those properties. So while we are talking about Flexbox properties, I will show you some of the properties which can be used for the Flexbox as well as the flex items. The first property which I will show you is the flex direction. So the Flexbox items can be laid out in one of two directions. They can either be laid out in horizontal direction or they can either be laid out in a vertical direction. In any direction, the flex items can be placed in a forward or reverse manner depending on the value which we have provided for the flex direction property. For example, if I will use the property value as row, then the flex items will be placed in a left to right manner. If I will use the property as row reverse, then the flex items will be placed in a right to left fashion. Whatever the value of this property will be, we will not be able to test it unless we will add some items to our flex container. So I'm going to add a bunch of divs which will act as children of this flex container, or they will act as flex items. They are called as flex items because they are flexible and their placing and their size depends upon the size of the flex container. But of course we can modify all of those properties. This is what the flex grid is looking right now. All the flex items have been laid out from the left to right because we are using the flex direction value as row. If I will change this value from row to row reverse, then let's see what will happen. Now the items are starting from the right and they are going all the way to the left. So the direction has been reversed. Similarly, we can set the flex direction as column instead of row. This will simply lay out the items in the vertical manner instead of laying them out in the horizontal manner. You can see how the items are taking up the full width of the screen. That is because we have not explicitly set the width and height of the flex container. So what the browser will do is it will try to flex the items depending on the space which is available in the flex container, and this is what exactly the flex box is used for, to utilize all the available space inside the container and to try to fit all the flex items inside that space. Now let's provide the values for the height and width of our flex container. Let's set the width as 700px and the height as 100px. This is what the flex items are looking right now. You can see that they are taking up the entire height of the flex container, but if you don't want to do that, we can also wrap the flex items. To see the wrapping of items, we have to reduce the width and we will have to increase the height, and we will have to add a property which is called as flex wrap. Now flex wrap can have several different values. For example, it can have a value for no wrap, which will simply mean that no wrapping will be done. Wrap will simply wrap in the forward direction. Wrap reverse will wrap in the backward direction. So let's use the value wrap. And this is how the items are being wrapped. Now let's just reduce the height, and you will see that the height of the flex items will be reduced as well because the available flex container space has been reduced. And there you go, the height of the flex items has been reduced too. The next property which I will show you is called as justify content, and this property can be used to align the flex items along the main axis. So if our main axis is vertical, then we can use the justify content property to align them on the vertical axis. Now this property has several different values like flex start, flex end, center, space between, etc. You will need to play around with these values to see what exactly they do, and you can also check out the official documentation of CSS Flexbox, or you can also go to websites like Mozilla Dev Network or maybe CSS Tricks to get an in-depth knowledge about how all of these property values will work. For instance, I'm going to set the value as flex start. To see how these values will work, I'm going to increase the width of our flexbox. So the flex start property is aligning all the items towards the left. If I will go ahead and I will use the flex end property, then it will align all the items towards the right. Now similar to the alignment on the main axis, we can also align the flex items inside the flex container along the cross axis. Now cross-axis alignment simply means that whatever direction we have chosen to lay out our flex items inside the container, the alignment of the flex items across that row or column can be controlled by using the property align items. This property has several different values like baseline, center, flex end, flex start, etc. For example, if I will use the center as the value, then they will be aligned towards the center across the axis on which they are laid out. So you can see over here, instead of stretching, they are being aligned towards the center of this flex container. Be sure to try out other values of align items property like stretch, flex end, flex start, etc. Alright, so enough talk about flex container. Now let's also talk a little bit about the individual flex items, because there are some properties which can be used for those items too. For example, we can override the default alignment of the flex item. First, let's create the CSS class for one of those items. So I'm going to create the class for item 4. The first property which I will talk about is the order in which we can lay out the flex item inside the container. When we are not providing the order value for the individual items, then the items will be laid out in the flex container using the default ordering in which we have placed the items in the container. So right now the items are being placed like this. For example, we can set the order properties value as -1 for item number 4 so as to place this item in the beginning. This content 4 item is being placed in the beginning, and the rest of the items which have the same order are being placed after this item number 4. The next property which I will show you is called as flex grow. Now flex grow can be used to grow a flex item, and it accepts an integer as a value. Whatever value we will provide over here, the flex item will take up that value as a proportion inside the flex container depending on the space which is available. So for example, if I will set the value of flex grow as 5 for item number 4, and also let's comment out this order so that we can see this item in the middle. You can see that this item 4 is taking up more space than the rest of the items in this container. The extra space which it is taking up will depend on the value which we have provided, and it will act as a proportional value when it comes to taking up extra space which is available inside the container. This is useful when we want some of the flex items to take up more space. There is another property which is very useful, and that can be used to override the default cross alignment of flex items. That property is called as align self. So right now you can see that the cross alignment of flex items has been set as center inside the flex container. If we want to override this value, then we can use the property align self for the individual items. For example, if I will set the value of align self as flex start for item number 4, then item number 4 will have a different cross alignment than the rest of the items. As you can see over here, item number 4 is being aligned towards the top while the rest of the items are being aligned at the center. There are some more properties which can be used for individual flex items like flex shrink, flex basis, etc. But for this introductory video, I'm going to keep this content limited. And that would be everything that this video has to offer. Feel free to use the comments area, and I will try to respond as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, then please place a thumbs up on it. Also, please subscribe to the Code First channel if you haven't done that already. I'm Nitij, and I will see you next time. Till then, take care of yourselves and have a great day.